Hey guys, this video is a little late, but better late than never, I guess. These are some of the pickups that I've had the last few weeks. 95% of these, or maybe even higher, I didn't count all the items that I'm going to show you, but most of these, the vast majority of these are going to come from Classic Game Fest, which happened like a month ago by now. But anyway, I just wanted to show you guys the type of things that I picked up. In fact, I've gone to so many of these retro conventions, retro gaming conventions specifically. I've gone to Classic Game Fest, I've gone to Retropalooza in Houston and in Dallas, and various other ones here and there. And I find it very difficult to pick up anything because either I already have it or it's way too expensive, more than I'm willing to pay for most things. So a lot of the times I'm struggling to just find anything to buy, and I'm so cheap. Like I'm of the retro game collectors from the early 2000s, where almost everything, pre-2000 was super cheap, right? Saturn, PlayStation 1, certainly NES, Super Nintendo, everything was really, really cheap. So I was picking up Sega CD games for, $2-3 a piece because nobody wanted them. And now I look at some of the games I have and some of the prices of Sega CD games and Saturn games, which were like worth nothing almost. And they're just astronomical. So I just cannot bring myself to purchase those type of things. So anyway, I struggle to find things at these retro gaming conventions because, they're usually resellers and they all know what they're worth. Very few vendors will have really good bargains unless they come in big old bins and they say, dig through the bin and, we'll give you a deal on whatever. If you find vendors, and these are most of them, that have them under glass cases or individually protected, protection boxes for individual cartridges or whatever, then they're going to ask for absolute top dollar, and I'm just not into that. So anytime I walk by a vendor and it's like, oh, they have a glass case or individually sealed games or whatever, I'm like, yep, I'm not going to find shit there because they're going to want so much money. But every so often I'll come across a vendor like the guy selling this in television that are very reasonably priced. So this Intellivision, and I know Intellivision's not really big on anybody's list of collectibles, but it's old, right? And it's boxed, and although the box is in pretty rough condition, I'm just amazed that we can get something like this for $40. So I thought that was a great deal. I already own an Intellivision, I own an IntelliVoice, I own plenty of cartridges, and most of the time you can find Intellivision cartridges boxed for, anywhere from $2 to $5. If they're very rare and it's one of these specific vendors, they may sell rare Intellivision games for $20 or $30, but for the most part, they're pretty cheap. But this particular vendor had this Intellivision and then a few games I didn't have, and I think I paid $3 for each game. And they're not in the best condition. This one's pretty beat up, but I'd never even heard of Buzz Bombers. Locomotion's one that I'd never seen before. Burger Time I had. I think most people wanted too much money for Burger Time, and by too much I mean tens of dollars. I want to pay $3 for Burger Time. I don't want to pay anything close to $20 or $30 for it or whatever it goes. And then Frog Bog. I think Frog Bog, if you've seen the movie Grandma's Boy, I'm pretty sure Frog Bog is the game that they're playing in the break room where they start giving each other shit. But anyway, I picked up all these games for, I think they were $3 a piece. And they all come with, of course, the box, which you can see. And the older ones have flip-top boxes like this, where you have the overlays, instructions, and the cartridge. But some of them have where you have to kind of open the box from the bottom to the top. There's Locomotion, and then the overlays. Hopefully, you have the overlays. Those are the things that you would think most people would lose, but you'd be surprised. Most Intellivision stuff is pretty complete. I mean, you'll find a lot of loose cartridges, but there's a high number of Intellivision cartridges that just have box and everything. I think it's just because it wasn't that popular. So there was probably a lot of old stock that got sold late in the game, or people just bought it and didn't play it because honestly, like Intellivision, even though it had better graphics, better processor, Buzz Bombers, they had really good looking sports games for the time, but they just didn't they didn't sell very well. Atari had a monopoly, pretty much, not a monopoly, but a huge chunk of the market. Pretty much any video game system during the late 70s and early 80s, people talked about it as, do you have an Atari? Even if you had an Intellivision, or if you were even more niche, the Odyssey 2. Those are pretty much the only ones people had. You have a lot of other stuff. You had Vectrex come up later. You had a Fairchild Channel F, or whatever it was called, the Bally Astrocade. And of course you had the computers. Those kind of sold well, the Commodore 64, VIC-20 or whatever. But for the most part, if you owned a console, you owned an Atari 2600, or VCS as it was really called in your burger time. So anyway, yeah, this is one of my pickups, 40 bucks. I think I'm like 95% sure I looked through this. I don't remember now because it's been like a month. But let's just take a quick look at it. Yep, so it's all there. Oh, it's even got these little, when you used to buy game consoles, it would come with these little catalogs. The Atari ones are pretty famous, and they always have this cool artwork that had like very little resemblance to the actual game. This one has, the game screens, right? And then the artistic representation of, like, there's a pinball and the actual pinball. Usually it looks really cool in the drawings, and then it's like, their graphics are actually pretty decent for being early 8-bit stuff. Like, you can actually differentiate, like, that's isometric view. You can differentiate the players pretty well. They're not just blobs, they look like actual humans. So yeah, the television actually had pretty good looking games for the time. Now the problem with Intellivision was not only just the marketing, but these goddamn things. This is the controller. If you can imagine, this disc is awful. It looks awful and it is awful. This is how you would control motion. That's up, down, left, right, and it was very imprecise. They put too much focus on this goddamn keypad, like you would ever really use it. It is nice that it has 4 buttons. So I recall, I think they just mirror each other for, did it if you're left or right-handed. Excuse me, if you're left or right-handed. Gotta take a breath here. But yeah, these controllers are pretty awful. The ColecoVision kind of took this and then added a little nubby stick on there, and it was awful too. So, just having the Atari sticks, even though it only had 1 button, it just controlled way better than this. This is just pretty bad. But it was neat that you could put them right back into the console. Of course, you got this nice 70s wood grain. Let's see when this was manufactured. 1970, well, at least it's copyright 1979. I'm not sure if it was manufactured in 79. But, wow, this is not a toy and is intended for use by or under the supervision of adults. Wow, it wasn't even for kids. That's crazy. But here's Mattel Electronics. But yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think it has the foam. No, it just has a bunch of bubble wrap or bubble whatever protecting stuff. I guess it is bubble wrap. I don't even think the power cord. No, it's not even removable. So that's pretty weird. Now that I'm looking up at the camera, I'm pretty sure like most of the stuff I just did was way off frame, but whatever. One day I'll hire a videographer, video editor, whatever. But I'm just gonna take this off because it's so huge. That's why I started with that one. Let me get these television games out of the way too. So this is all from Classic Game Fest. This next thing is kind of silly. It is a box. It's an outer box for a ColecoVision. Game Over Video Games, which is the main force behind Classic Game Fest in Austin. They have so many trade-ins of boxes and stuff that they actually have a whole booth that just sells video game boxes, and they range from, I think, from $15 to $40 depending on the rarity of the box and stuff. And I was mentioning, Nicole was like, hey, do you need any boxes? I'm like, I have my ColecoVision. For some reason, I kept a styrofoam insert where the game console goes, and I don't have the box. So she rummaged through it all, talked to the lady there, and found me a ColecoVision box. It's a little pricey for, as far as boxes, it's just a plain box, but, ColecoVision isn't exactly, it's kind of on the Intellivision spectrum where it's old, people know of it, but nobody really has fond memories of it unless you're super, super old like me. And I loved the Intellivision. I mean, I didn't really like the Intellivision, the ColecoVision. I didn't even own an Intellivision. I just played it at a friend's house. But yeah, I finally got a box, so I just need to find my foam inserts and put the whole thing together, and then I can put it on display. And for display, it's actually pretty nice, you know. And once I picked this up, I was walking around with it, and I got a couple of compliments from people like, "Oh, that's a pretty nice pickup." So it's strange where we are in 2022. We're paying $20 for 40-year-old boxes, and people are impressed. But anyway, all right. So moving along, the next few things are just going to be kind of random order. This little guy is a Mortal Kombat Scorpion plushie. Obviously, I won him when I was playing Quake, of all things. For some reason, I'm not even here's one of the little medals you get. I'm not a Mortal Kombat player, but I've gone to 2 retro conventions and gotten Mortal Kombat themed prizes. And this one kind of didn't make it. To be fair, he had a whole table full of stuff, and he said, I was playing Quake 3 and I won my free-for-all match, and he said, okay, you get to pick anything from the table. And honestly, this was the best looking thing on the table. There were some really junky things, so somehow I ended up with Mortal Kombat, and this is for Mortal Kombat X or 10. It's not even from the original. I ended up with Mortal Kombat stuff, and this, you get a little medal that you can wear, I guess, if you wanted to, for winning my Quake 3 heat. And let's see what, I have another plushie here. There's actually one missing. This is a Bullet Bill. There was a Bob-omb that Nicole has. She has it in the room though, and she's sleeping right now because it's late at night on a Friday night when I'm making this video, so I didn't want to go in there and wake her up. But there's also a Bob-omb that goes along with this. And what happened was she was walking around Classic Game Fest and she found, what was it? There were little trinkets. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a business card. It was some kind of like a question box or something. And it said, there was a scavenger hunt, and she wanted to know, she kept saying like, hey, we need to find where the scavenger hunt is. And I thought it was maybe one of those things where you have to go around and get things from different parts of the convention, and if you collect everything, then you get a t-shirt or something. But no, I recognized the logo on the box, and it was Eon, and they make GameCube and Nintendo 64 HDMI adapters. So we walked over there, and sure enough, for each one of those little boxes, you get a plushie pick. And she had found 2, and they were kind of surprised she had found 2 of them because most people don't even find 1. So she had 2 of these things, and so she turned them in, and I picked a Bullet Bill, and she picked a Bob-omb. So there's that. And since we were there, you know, the marketing worked because I ended up with this and this, which are, as I just said, HDMI adapters for the GameCube, as you can tell there, and the Nintendo 64. So you plug these into the back, and there's no modification necessary. Let's see if I could, well, I'll probably need a utility knife, which I don't have. Maybe this one I can, they're both sealed. So, I mean, you can see the product on this one. It basically just connects to the back. You can see it kind of looks like an N64 up front. And yeah, you get HDMI out. It's supposedly very low lag, and the picture quality is supposed to be very good. So they've been highly recommended for years. I just never picked them up because N64 I have connected via SCART to a BVM, so that's a major there. And then the GameCube, I actually have official component cables from Nintendo, which are very, very rare and expensive because you had to mail order them. You had to have the foresight to actually go forth and mail order them, and not a lot of people did. So because I have official component cables, I've just been using that on a CRT, and I've been using this on a CRT. But these things range, I don't know, from 150 to 180 bucks each. And the guy was like, you know what, I'll make you a deal. We're at the con, you know, they're usually, you know, so whatever, 150, 180, whatever they are. But at the con, we're selling them for 130. But I'll tell you what, you guys found 2 of the scavenger things. If you buy 2, any 2, I'll sell them to you for 100 bucks each. So I got these for 100 bucks each. And I looked them up online before purchasing them, and it was a great deal. So couldn't pass them up for 100 bucks a piece. So ended up with these things. All right, what else did I get? Let's see. So let's do some. Let's go with this one. So this whatever it is, II Arcade, that's just a bag that somebody handed me. But what I'm actually wanting to talk about is what's in here. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so this actually came along with Doodle World. So Doodle World is an independently produced Nintendo game for the actual NES, and this is an actual NES cartridge in here. You can buy digital versions, but it was so cool looking. It's got this kind of crayon, got this Yoshi's, what was it, Yoshi Story or whatever it was. I can't remember, or Mario Brother, whatever it was. The kind of crayon look, it's got that going on, but it's for the NES. And they had a demo there, and I played it, and it plays really well. Apparently, the independent programmer designed the game, and his daughter, I think it was his 8-year-old daughter, I can't remember how old she was at the time, drew out the characters and things, and he translated into an 8-bit game, and it looks really cool. Plays pretty good. It's got some bugs in it. Sometimes you pick up the crayons and they don't disappear. It's a little simplistic, but I was impressed with the presentation, and the guy was really cool, so I figured I'd support him. So I paid $50, and you get the cartridge, right? I'm not sure if these are repurposed or what. I feel like they probably are. But yeah, Doodle World, and the guy was from San Antonio too, so that kind of, you know, maybe want to support him because we're from Austin. So it comes with that, and what else comes in here? I haven't even actually opened it. Oh, okay. Comes with crayons, and I think this is a color. You can color this coloring book. Maybe not. So it just has the. I guess you can color it. Oh, solve the maze with the crayon. So here are the credits. Out of Sally Peters, design concept. I think it's the daughter. Nate Peters is the developer, programmer, additional programming by Dale Coop, Benjamin Plitch, the music by Takumi Granger. So it looks like he had some folks helping him out. Wasn't just a one-man deal. And then a various number of playtesters there, and then people that supported him. So here's a quick little story. Welcome to Doodle World. The evil King Eraser and his office supply minions have stolen the magical crayon used to create Doodle's amazing world. Defeat King Eraser and his minions to retrieve the magical crayon. Doodle World is the imagination and drawings of a young girl come to life. The game was created after I watched my daughter doodling. She inspired me to create this game and its world. Throughout the development process, she provided input to help bring this game to life. We hope you enjoyed as much as we do, and we thank you for your support, Nate and Sally Peters, and that's them right there. Yeah, cool people, and I love supporting cool people. So let's put this back in here. I feel like I probably should have put in, you know what, I'll worry about this later. Set this off to the side. There's a postcard. I guess if you want to scan that QR code, I don't know if it's scannable from you all. Oh, and it also came with this, I'm not sure where I got this from. I know it was the same booth. It's a cleaning kit. So I don't know if you can see that. You put a little alcohol, I think, fluid pad with alcohol, and then you can clean the contacts of your NES or Nintendo or Genesis, any kind of cartridge-based game. So that came included with it, with the crayon, a piece of paper. Okay, so this one up, Old School Gamer Magazine, just goes with this, and this goes with this. So right next to these guys were these guys with the bag and this Old School Gaming Magazine. I actually have one of these from, I don't know if I got from Retropalooza or something. It's a pretty cool little magazine. It's free. They've been giving that out the last few cons. Has some cool interviews. Talks about Showbiz Pizza. And then some quotes from old school gamers from the arcade days. But yeah, it's pretty cool. If you go to a con here, at least here in Texas, you'll probably see this probably in most cons. Anyway, I've seen them at the last two cons, so let me put this stuff away. Or off to the side for now, put it away later. All right. And speaking of seeing at cons, these are a couple things I picked up from Brett Weiss. Not this, that's a sneak preview. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That I didn't even get that Street Fighter stuff from what am I talking? Classic Game Fest. I didn't get it from them. This is Steven Centered, sort of. This is the NES Omnibus, volumes 1 and 2. He had just published volume 2, and you'll notice one's a Dogbone controller and one's the original controller. So Brett Weiss is from the Dallas area, so he's always at Retropalooza, pretty much all the local retro gaming conventions, and he also travels to a bunch of the bigger ones across the country. So he's been writing awesome video game historical books for some time. He also has a Kiss book. Apparently he's a big Kiss fan. But anyway, we have bought a few of his books. Mostly Nicole goes to him and either buys his latest book or pre-orders the one that I think we have a pre-order for whatever his next book is. I can't remember what it is, but she's already pre-ordered it. But in any case, Brett writes these cool books, and we thought we saw Volume 2 had just come out, so we bought it, thinking that I had Volume 1 already, and somehow I'd missed Volume 1, so I went back the next day and I bought Volume 1. So I have Volume 1 and 2. Let's take a quick look. This is pretty high quality printing. There's several of these around. I know Pat Contry has one. There's several folks that have these kind of NES all-encompassing books that talk a little about each of the games. But Brett Weiss, we've been going to him for a while, and I do have the Pat Contry book as well, and he does an excellent job. So the writing is always very good, and the editing is good. It's a high quality book, high quality printing. Pictures look great. So yeah, he's done a really good job. And Retro Gaming Magazine, separate. This has the first volume. Of course, there's so many NES games. This says A through L, and this is pretty much the same thing, just completing the alphabet M through Z. Sorry, Metal Storm, Metroid. I think some of these, yeah. So Metroid, because it's such a big game, it has. How am I looking at the camera? It's probably all out of frame, most of the stuff. Because it's such a big game, this one has multiple pages associated with it, where like Metal Storm had like Michael Andretti's World GP, just has one. Mickey Mousecapade, one. So yeah, if it warrants it, he gives it extra time. For some reason, Othello has two. That's weird. I think of Othello back for the Atari days. But anyway, yeah, these are really cool. They're about $40, I think, which I think is a great price considering the quality of these books, with a dust jacket, and he always does what do they call it? It's not autograph, it's not a dedication. I don't know. It's a book signing, whatever you call it when you sign a book. He always does that. You can tell that on this one too. To Rob. If you ever find this when I'm dead at a garage sale or something, this one was mine at one point. So that was cool. Oh well, I have that out. He also sells other stuff at his booth. And this is something that I picked up just because it had what I instantly recognized as Robotron, which is one of my favorite classic arcade games. I love Robotron. And one day I'm going to get 1,000,000 points on it. I've gotten about half that, but I've never gotten 1,000,000 points on a real machine, or any, not even emulated. But yeah, I really, really love the game. That's one of those games where I didn't appreciate it when I was a kid. It was a little too hard for me. I was kind of young when Robotron came out, and it was just too frantic. I couldn't do it. It was too much going on. But as I got older, especially when they re-released it for the Williams collection, I think it was called, the Williams Arcade Collection for the original PlayStation, had Robotron on it, and that's when I really started to appreciate it. But anyway, I saw this, and it says Rare Vintage Mint, $15. How to Win in Video Games. The Joystick, the name of the magazine is called Joystick. So, and this one's from September 1982. It was originally $2.95, which is probably a considerable amount more. I did look through this already. It is surprisingly well written. I mean, there are references to, like this guy must have been an English major or something, because I think he's referencing like Faust and Emerson and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? He's just a very well-read author, or at least one of the authors is. This is a very early video game magazine. There weren't a lot of magazines that dealt just with video games until the early 80s, and even then they tended to come out sporadically. They weren't monthly. It really wasn't until EGM, maybe Computer and Video Games, Game Pro certainly, but I felt like around that time, like the late 80s, early 90s, is really when video game magazines became consistent. They would come out every month. You could find them everywhere. They were nice and thick and had a lot of content. But in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, it was very niche, right? So they would be very thin, kind of expensive for the time. But anyway, this one I had never even heard of, Joystick. So they actually have a feature on 2084, or Robotron 2084, and they have an interview with, I see. It's not misspelled. He spelled interview, not interview, and I think it's because you get the kind of the inner workings of developer's mind. So in fact, it's just the mind behind Defender. So it's an interview, not an interview. And there's some features and stuff. This is actually very well written, very well laid out. I was glad to pay the $15. Oh wow, that's Eugene Jarvis there. Man, he looks so young. So he helped. He was part of VidKids. Yeah, VidKids. Yeah, VidKids. Robotron, Defender, Stargate. They were pretty big at the time. They worked specifically with Williams Electronics. So this was an awesome read, and the best thing about this is because it was written in 1982, it's not a retrospective. It writes about Robotron as if it's a new and upcoming game, like just released. Like, hey, check out this game, or read about this game that just came out or is about to come out. You don't know anything about it, and it goes into the story of Robotron and the philosophical aspects of it, of the story. And honestly, all I ever thought about Robotron is like kill a bunch of stuff. But it's very cool to read articles written about games as they were considered new and cutting edge technology. Having all those things on the screen at the same time back in 1982 was a huge deal. Like if you play Robotron, if you've ever played Robotron, there's like maybe like 100 different things all moving at once. There's no flicker. It moves very, very, very quickly. There's a little bit of slowdown in some areas, but for the most part, it runs super fast. And that was a technological achievement at the time. And for them to be writing about, it's not about Robotron here. They're doing some strategy sections on stuff. There's Zaxxon, but to read the enthusiasm that about new games like Robotron. Here's I think a strategy guide. Yeah. So this one I think talks about. Is this just a strategy guide? I'm not sure. I think the interview maybe is the one where they talk more about the. And it's also a twin stick shooter, one of the original, or if not the, I think it is the original twin stick shooter. Back then they were so innovative. I mean, look how populated this screen is with stuff. It's just, I mean, it's hard to do anything new nowadays. It's Pac-Man patterns, which is like whatever. It's hard to do anything innovative nowadays because, we were so far along, 40, 50 years along into video game development, that everything seems derivative. So it's back in the early 80s, late 70s, everything was so new. Like almost everything was new. Like you would create new genres just by creating a new game. Like the Maze game by Pac-Man. So Pac-Man was so popular around this time. It was released in 1980. This is 1982. They had these little Pac-Man outings, like parades and shit. Like people would like flood malls or parades and stores just to celebrate Pac-Man. Here's Tempest talking about Tempest as it's a new game. So that's pretty crazy. And the love and Phoenix. Anytime you read anything about these games now, they're always retrospective. So, well, how was it created? Tell me about your days back then. Oh, back then we used to do this. This is written in the present and sometimes in the future tense. Here's what's up and coming. And it's really cool to read about stuff like that. The perspective is just so interesting. But anyway, what a great pickup for $15. I really enjoyed that. And that, again, came from the Brett Weiss booth, who, again, was the author of those omnibus books that I bought. Let me put this back into its protective sleeve. And let's move on. Let's see what else I got here. Let me do these real quick. Well, this is not a big deal. This is just an 8 megabyte memory card with Magic Gate. This is an official one. If you, what is it called? SD, MPIO, no, MPIO is multipath. Input output. What's it called? There's a PlayStation. I can't even remember it now. There's a PlayStation mod where you can run ISOs from the memory card slot, and in order to do that, you need a memory card that has Magic Gate capabilities. So I picked this up for like a few bucks just as a backup in case I wanted to do that again. So that's why I picked that up. What else do I have here? To my left. Now, I guess we can talk about Sean's table now. But in order to do that, I'm really going to have to get a knife because I have to open this up, a utility knife. I guess I can talk about this. He gave this to me. I have an Xbox 360 Star Wars edition, and it has everything but the game. And I've been looking for the game, but I don't want to pay that much for it because apparently it's a garbage game. But my system isn't complete. I have the box. I have the 3PO controller. I have the white Connect, of course, the console itself, and everything else. I just didn't have the game. But Sean said, I sat there and I'm like, how much you want for this? And Sean, who's my buddy, who's a vendor there, he also created this here. And I'll show you that in a second when I get my utility knife. He was like, you know what? It's worth just a couple bucks. Just take it. Just take it. It's been here all weekend. It was like the end of day Sunday. He's like, just take it, man. No big deal. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I can finally complete my Star Wars Xbox 360. Now, let me take a quick break. For you, it'll just be like 1 second. I'll be right back with the utility knife. All right, I am back and I have a knife, so let's get to opening this. I don't know if you can tell what this is so far. Probably not. This was actually on display for a good portion of the weekend, and he had made 2 of them, so I thought I was buying the one that everybody had been touching and picking up all weekend, but he had one underneath the counter that he had sealed up, and he gave me this one. Again, Sean is a good friend of mine. Had him over for Thanksgiving dinner, hung out with him, and he's very, very talented. He makes cool things like this. And he designs these things and has he's purchased the machinery to make everything in it, pretty much, except for the electronics. He has to buy the internals. But as far as the box and design and the graphics and its design, or their design, it's all him. Probably coming into pretty good view now. It is a Nintendo 8-bit NES joystick. Now he can make this in any kind of theme, but he themed this one after the Play Choice 10, obviously. Let me make sure it's sort of centered. But this has got a Sanwa stick, Sanwa buttons. These are 30 millimeter, these are 24 millimeter. And again, he designed everything from the casing. He's got this carbon filter look on the side. The casing itself, the acrylic he cut out. He printed out all the graphics. He just does a phenomenal job. Like even the cable, I don't know if you guys can see that super well, but like the cable ends the cable itself is braided and the ends are very nicely done. He just does a quality job. And the cool thing is, in talking to him, I hadn't seen him in a while. The bad news is he's going to stop really focusing on these sticks. He's made hitboxes and of course fight sticks for modern systems and PCs, but he's kind of veering away from that. And now he's going to be making arcade cabinets, like full-size arcade cabinets. And he showed me some preview pictures on his phone of what he's been working on, and they look phenomenal. So when he gets those done and starts selling those, I can already tell you, like I already said, I'll commit myself to buying one of your first ones because he does such a good job on everything he touches. So I'm very excited to try that. But anyway, the stick feels really good. It's very weighty. It's got the select and start button. At first, I was like, I kind of would have liked them up here to just keep them out of the way. But he pointed out there's certain games like Mega Man or whatever that actually use the select and start, or at least the select button, sometimes the start button, as actual gameplay buttons, right, for menus or whatever. So that made sense. And quite honestly, like I'm really not going to actually, it's not like I'm frantically going to be hitting stuff like that. So it made sense that he put them there, and it also follows the design of the actual NES pad. But yeah, here's the back of it. I don't think he's got any branding for his company. I know he has a name for his company. I just know by Sean, so this is all Sean's stuff. But yeah, anyway, this was, I think he wanted 120. I think he wanted for this, which again, this is fantastic. Handmade. all custom made. And he gave me a friend price for $100. So I picked it up for $100. Super happy with it. I haven't tried it out yet, but I'm sure like it feels really good. So anyway, that is one of the last things. I think that might be the last thing I have to show you. So here's a little, actually, okay, now I remember. That's the last thing I have to show you for this video because it's already running probably like 40 minutes long or whatever it is. I don't even know. I'm sure it's very long, over 30 minutes. But this is all kind of game related stuff. I did pick up a whole bunch of movies. I picked up a box of laser discs and a box of CEDs or vinyl video discs. And I got a really good deal on those. I want to go over them, but I know most people who are interested in this are probably not interested in that. So I'll take my 8 to 10 views on the other video. But I do want to do it because I have been getting it ever since I got my laser active fixed. I've been getting into laser discs, and ever since I picked up that CED player at the estate sale maybe 6 weeks ago, I've kind of been into that too. So anyway, I got really good deals on those. I have one thing to show you more that wasn't at Classic Game Fest, but I do want to show you. I got this in Las Vegas. I went to Las Vegas for about a week and a half. Last week we got back in. And I got this set here. There was this cool shop at the Container Park near Fremont Street in Las Vegas. It just opened up the weekend before I think we went on a Wednesday, and it just opened up that previous Saturday. And it's called Run It Back. The guy who runs it, Ray, is super awesome. We spent some time talking. And I normally don't, again, I don't usually like to buy games that are very expensive or beyond $5. He had this movie and this game there. I picked up the movie on VHS for $5. It's about $5, 5 times more than I usually pay. I usually pay about $1 for VHS tapes from Sabres or Goodwill or Salvation Army. But he was such a cool guy. He had a collection of VHS tapes there. He had video games. He had clothing. He had collectible mugs, figures, all kinds of stuff. It was kind of a small shop. So he says he has a lot of stock, but he doesn't have a stock room. So he's kind of struggling with what to display in the store because a lot of his customers, and he's right, like me, are going to be visiting, and most of us are on planes and we can't take big huge things back with us. So video games are one of the things that sell. He said that he sold a lot of already in that less than half a week that he'd been open, or less than a week that he'd been open. But anyway, so I picked this up, Street Fighter the movie on VHS, and I've been buying VHS tapes for about 6 months now, every so often when I find good deals. And then, of course, the Sega Saturn. I was surprised to learn, because I have an app that has all the games that I purchased in a database, because I don't want to buy. I used to buy doubles of such as I can remember, and now I have a database and it syncs up with an online backup. And anyway, so I was surprised to go into my database to find out that I did not own Street Fighter the movie on either PlayStation or Sega Saturn, and the Sega Saturn has much better controllers for Street Fighter than the PlayStation. So it says $60 here. Yeah, I actually bought it for $40. It looks like retail's about $50, so it was a little high to begin with. But he was such a cool guy. I figured, sure, you're just open up your store, I'll support you. He was very personable. His kid was there, and he had a Super NES Mini set up in the store just to pass the time for customers. But he had his kid who was 6 years old, and he was playing an adult, and I didn't know either one of them. I thought it was the adult and his son playing, but it turns out the kid was Ray's kid, the owner of the shop, and the adult was the owner of the shop next door. His wife owned like a dress shop or something, so he killed time at his store. And anyway, they were playing Street Fighter 2, like the original Street Fighter 2 on the Super NES Mini, and the kid, Ray's kid, was talking so much smack. It was beautiful, and he was talking how Blanca was the best, and I'm like, it makes me super happy to hear a 6-year-old kid in 2022 smack talking an adult and saying how Blanca is so awesome. Like, that was just a great feeling. Like, not only was Run It Back like a nostalgia store, but like just hearing that brought back feelings of nostalgia. Like, that's the schoolyard talk that we used to have when we were younger, right? I was even like already in college when Street Fighter 2 came out, but like the young kids in the schoolyard talking shit to each other, and Blanca's the best, no, screw you, Ken's the best, and like, no way, the Russian will take you down. It was just so cool to hear. It's like I had to pick up this stuff from Ray. So anyway, yeah, it's in really good condition for the Sega Saturn. It's worth about $50. Got it for $40. So yeah, pretty cool. that's the last of my pickups for video games. So this video is ending here in a few seconds. Thanks for watching, everybody. But if you stay tuned, well, that's kind of a television thing. But if you stick to my channel, there'll be another video here. If you're interested, I'll have a whole bunch of laser discs and CED discs to talk about. All right, until then, thanks for watching.